Early this spring, there's been one Red Sox prospect that's starting to turn heads a little bit. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and one of my favorite parts about spring training is the fact that you are going to have the opportunity given to a few minor league players to really start making a name for themselves. Guys who have maybe flown under the radar a little bit, guys who maybe weren't in consideration for certain spots on the team, now have the opportunity to actually go out and either win a spot with the club now or in the future. And right now, super early this spring training, there's one name that stands above all others, and that's a guy by the name of Nick Sogard. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about who Nick is, where he came from, what he's been doing. We're going to talk about why this spring training has been so impactful so early on for Nick Sogard, and we're going to talk about what the impact of him doing what he's doing continuously over the spring could be on the 2024 Red Sox. But before we get into that, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're in the 400 subscriber away mark from that 10,000 mark. So if you want to help us get there, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So I'm assuming some of you guys aren't super familiar with who Nick Sogard is, so I'm going to break down where he came from a little bit before we get into what he's done this spring and what that could mean for the Red Sox. Sogard was actually a 12th round draft pick back in 2019 by the Tampa Bay Rays. Sogard came to the Red Sox in a trade with the Rays back in 2021, where Chaim Bloom sent Jeffrey Springs and another pitcher over to the Rays in exchange for minor leaguers Ronaldo Hernandez and Nick Sogard. Since joining the Boston Red Sox, Sogard's been fairly solid at the plate in basically every level he's played in, making his way all the way up to the AAA level last year, where he played his first AAA season, meaning he's kind of knocking on the door of Major League Baseball a little bit. Last year at the AAA level in his first full season, he had a 266 average with a really impressive 370 on base percentage and a 391 slug, which was good for a 97 WRC plus, or right around that league average mark. If you want to get technical about it, it was about 3% below the average hitter at the AAA level last year, but nothing too crazy in terms of below average production. Now, you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, Corbin, why are we making an entire video about someone who had a league average bat at the AAA level coming to the major leagues? Well, there are some impressive underlying statistics in Nick Sogard's game, and has a lot to do with his on-base percentage, which was a really impressive, again, 370 last year, in large part due to the fact that he really doesn't strike out a whole lot. Last season, he had a 17.3 strikeout rate, which would have been about 3% better than the average major league hitter in 2023, which was sitting around 20%. And he also had a 13.7 walk rate in 2023, which again would have been better than the average hitter in Major League Baseball last year. Due to these things and due to the season he had in 2023 at the AAA level, going into 24, Nick Sogard was given the opportunity as a non-roster invite to play with the big league club. Now, let me just preface this by saying, before we get into his spring training statistics, it's a really small sample size. I'm not going to deny that. The Red Sox have only played 5 games, and Nick Sogard has only appeared in 3 of them, so things can really change as we get closer to the major league season, one way or the other. They could stay the same. We just don't know right now, but he's been making the best out of his opportunities so far in spring training for the Red Sox, because in those 3 games, he's had 7 at-bats. In those 7 at-bats, he has 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 4 hits. This equates to a 571 average with a 1.571 slug and a 378 WRC plus, about 278% above league average production. Again, very small sample size, nothing to start shouting and hollering about, but what Nick Sogard's been able to do is really make the most out of his small opportunities so far this spring, which is a good sign. It's one of the reasons why he's starting to surprise a lot of people. So after after a couple of games, you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, so now we've got the average minor league season and we've got just 3 games at spring training. Why are we making an entire video about this guy? Well, it's because I think Nick could actually at some point this season play himself into being a contributor at the big league level, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is what we just broke down. He's a solid at bat in AAA with solid production. This is a guy who might not knock your socks off production wise, but he's going to go up there and put together a solid at bat that has the potential to be a league average producer. He's also a switch hitter, giving the Red Sox some more versatility off the bench than they currently have, and he absolutely demolishes left-handed pitching. In 2023, he finished AAA with a 319 average, a really impressive 441 on base percentage, and a 517 slug, good for a 958 OPS against left-handed pitchers. If the Red Sox are looking offensive versatility, especially against left-handed pitchers, someone who can come off the bench and really increase the depth in their lineup against lefties, Nick Sogard could be that guy. But it's not just his offensive potential that has me starting to wonder if this is someone we see in 2024. The other part of this is Nick Sogard can play basically everywhere. Last season with the Woo Sox, he was mostly a shortstop, but he also has spent time both last year and throughout his minor league career at various other positions. He's played second base, he's played third base, left field, center field, right field. Essentially, the only 2 positions Nick Sogard has not played in his minor league career so far with the Boston Red Sox is first base and catcher. This dude can play basically every part of the field. And I think these 2 things are extremely valuable to the Boston Red Sox because the combination of what he can do with the plate, give you a little bit of power, give you a whole lot of contact and hit from both sides, combined with the fact that he can play basically every position on the diamond, essentially makes Nick Sogard an all-around Swiss Army knife. You can plug and play him in a variety of different situations, and I think that's super valuable for this team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that this is someone to keep an eye on to make the opening day roster or bat 7th in the first game of the season because I just don't think that's likely, but things tend to happen over the course of a 162 game season. Take, for example, guys like Pablo Reyes and Manuel Valdez or Rob Refsnyder. If they get injured at some point this year, or if a starter gets injured and you need depth off your bench, or maybe one of these guys just isn't performing the way you want them to perform and you can't seem to get them on the right track, Nick Sogard has the opportunity this spring to play himself into a position where he's a big consideration for that opportunity. And I think what he's doing right now is exactly that. He's playing himself into the short list for the Red Sox depth going into 2024. And that's something I'm actually super optimistic about. This team overall has been a letdown this offseason from a front office perspective, but one of the things I really like about this roster going into 2024, the depth floor of this team is much higher than it was in 2023. When Trevor Story went down to begin the 2023 season, they brought in Kike Hernandez, yikes, right? And then they had Yu Chang and David Hamilton. This year going into 2024, if heaven forbid something like that happens, you've got guys like Nick Sogard making a name for himself or Chase Midroth emerging as potential depth options for the 2024 season. And again, I think that floor ends up being a bit higher than it was in 2023, and I think that's a really good thing. Overall, Nick still has a long way to go. There's still a whole lot of spring training left, and things could go one way or the other, but this is the guy, in my opinion, to start keeping an eye on because he's surprising a lot of people. There is a very genuine possibility, in my opinion, especially where he's at in his development, that he plays himself into this short list, and at some point during the 2024 season, we see him called up and utilized in a fairly critical role within the Red Sox 26-man roster as that sort of Swiss Army knife, as that guy who Christian Arroyo was trying to be in 2022 and 2023, playing all over the diamond, right? A Kike Hernandez before he was an everyday shortstop type player, which I think could be very valuable for the Red Sox over the course of 162. So in my opinion, he is surprising a lot of people, and this is definitely someone you're going to want to pay attention to as the spring training rolls on to see sort of where he plays himself into within the Red Sox organization. But that's just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Do you think it's way too early and I'm overreacting talking about Nick Sogard? Do you think there's more to this? Do you think there is a possibility that he's playing himself into a role at some point in 2024? Or do you not care at all because it's just a minor league player and it means nothing? Let me know all your thoughts on what Nick Sogard's been able to do this spring training and what he was able to do last year in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. Again, about 450 away from that 10,000 mark, and we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.